you hung in there. You were young. You accepted the odd cold shower and sleeping rough, but you hung in there and you made it through. And then came the 96-97 season on the Australasian Tour, and you made 21 cuts in a row, which I understand is still a record today. Which is an incredible feat. You went from the top 800 in the world, and by the end of that season, you had broken into the top 100, which is a credible feat in itself. What was the change, and what kind of preparation did you do previous to that season that all of a sudden elevated you from from trying to look for a hot shower to being right up there on the top of leaderboards?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. It's quite a long story, so hopefully I don't go on too long. So I've been known to waffle a bit, but it probably started about 12 months or 18 months beforehand. So in '94, I decided to do a tax return. I better start doing some of this stuff. So I hadn't earned any money, so it didn't really matter. But anyway, I filed my tax return. And the government gave me, I don't know, it was about $7,000, $8,000 or $10,000. That's how badly I was doing. I got this massive refund. I'm going, oh, that's cool. So just bought a house and went to my wife and I said, look, I've been given this money. What should we do? She says, well, let's go to the tour school. So let's go to the US tour school. And I'm going, oh yeah, that sounds like a pretty, let's do that. And from there, I've got two rules. One, I'm never going to put my house in jeopardy to go play golf. And then the second one is always buy a return air ticket. So no matter where you are in the world, you can get home. And so I put enough aside to cover the mortgage repayments and then put the rest in the tour school. Ended up getting through the tour school. I actually remember playing with Andy Bean in the second stage, who back then was quite a prolific PGA Tour player, and I enjoyed that and got through. My driver broke on the first hole of that second stage, and I played the whole thing without a driver, and got through. So then I'm over in the US, and this is '96. So now I'm across at the beginning of '96. I've gone to the '95 tour school, got some status, didn't know what it all meant, but I went across there. And basically, I'm on the Nike tour back then, I think. It's now Corn Ferry. And I went across there. I didn't understand how the system worked in that anyway. I made pretty much no money at all. Recurring theme early on, actually. I made the first cut, finished dead last, and then had to go to Mexico. And I played a little event, got myself a bit of money there, for $1,500 and put it in the Bank of America. And I thought, great, I'll go to Mexico, come back, I've got $1,500, I'll be able to survive. I've got money. So I went down to Mexico, missed the cut, come back up into the deep south, somewhere in Mississippi. And I said, right, where's the Bank of America? And at this stage, Bank of America was only a Californian bank. So they said, yeah, just come into the branch and you can sign up and you're away. And I'm like, I'm in Mississippi, I've got no money. So basically for the next 3 weeks, well, actually I had about 3 weeks off and I want to play these little pay for play type events. I had no money. So for 3 weeks in a row, the guy luckily let me play. I said, look, I've got some money. I'm just going to try and get a hold of it. But he says, yep, you can play. So I forgot what it was, maybe $200, $500 entry fee. And I had to pay for my accommodation and I had to pay for my rental car and basically eat. And this is for my wife and myself. And so I've played 3 events in all these people's backyards somewhere in the deep south. To this day, I don't know where I was. They were just 2-round events. And 3 weeks in a row, I finished. I never won one, but I finished top 3 or top 4. And that was just enough to pay my entry fee back, pay my other bills, and move on to the next one. And it was the most pressure I've ever been under. I mean, we ate baby food. We had these little tins of baby food one night and bread rolls. Ate them 3 nights in a row. Just surviving. And in the end, we sort of, after 3 weeks, mentally shot. well, probably Kerry was. My wife was more mentally shocked than me. She was just completely over this. So we jumped on the plane, came back, went and borrowed some money again, went back across, and their final event there towards the end of the year was I was in Texas, and I finished top third and was able to pay off my debt. So I'm back to square now. I'm actually back to square. Come back, but that whole experience, I think, without realizing it, just toughened me up and just made me realize, well, you've got to do something, and probably got me into some really good habits, because then that's where it all kicked off from '96, and it just, playing golf in Australia in your own backyard or in Australia, New Zealand, it just felt so easy. There was none of this worrying, if I was going to pay my debts and what sort of stuff. It really was the catalyst. So that's where I think it all changed, in that probably 6 months before then. And then from there, it just took off, and started with probably the Greg Norman, and that's where I really got myself going.
Yeah, so you arrived in Royal Melbourne for the Greg Norman Holden Classic. You wouldn't have realised, Michael, but a young Leo Barber had arrived at Royal Melbourne a year previous to you, and I was preparing the course. So I remember seeing you out with a couple of the Kiwi boys on the
fantastic
on a practice round, and I was still too nervous at that stage to thrust the hand out and introduce myself. But it was a massive thrill for me being involved in an event and to see a New Zealander up on the leaderboard. And the Greg Norman Holden Classics they were massive events in those days, because Greg used to come home to Australia anytime Greg was involved in an event. Obviously, the prize money went up. The interest from both the public and the press went through the roof. And 9 times out of 10, Greg was right there in the mix. So as he was in this event, Peter Senior went on to win it, but yourself got a third placing. What was that event like for you?
It was great fun. This is where I was starting to put this little run together, and I think once I get myself in contention, I'm pretty good coming down the stretch. I like to get in contention a lot more than what I do, but if I get a chance to get in there, it's great fun. So I think it was Pete Senior and I were in the final group, and it was Greg Norman, and I can't remember who else was playing with Greg. So that was it was just great to mix with these guys, and especially Pete. I love playing against Pete. I really do enjoy his company. He's a great competitor, and I just saw what it was like to be a competitor as good as he was, and that's something I've always done, is just look around other people and you pick traits out here and there. And I just love the way Pete plays the game. So it's just fantastic to play. It was a freezing cold day, I think.
It was awful. The last round was awful. It was the rain came in, and it was actually really unpleasant. You would have played the majority of your final round in really poor conditions.
Yeah. Look, Pete played a great game of golf that day, and I remember he got lucky in one spot. He sort of heading towards a tree, hits a camera cart and pops out. But apart from that, he just played great, and still one of the greatest short iron players. Well, he did a lot great then. He still does. He still does really well. But just remember his 8 irons and his 7 irons and his irons was really great. Actually, the only other person who I thought was equal to that was Grant Moorhead. Again, back in our amateur days, he was fantastic with short irons, and Pete just hold him, and it was great fun. But it was just, for me, playing Royal Melbourne, the composite was enough as it was. I just enjoyed playing those type golf courses, and but I think on about the 13th or 14th hole, I managed to hold a bomb of a putt for birdie, and then I managed to hold a couple more putts coming in and tidy up the scorecard and shot a respectable maybe 1 under or something and finished third. And I gained a lot of confidence from that. That I was probably pretty nervous to start with, struggled a little bit, really get the round going, and then was able just to. I was elated. I was elated to finish third. I thought, how good is this? This was a good check. I managed to not throw up on TV and all that, and put a round together and finish it off. And I'm going, okay, that's pretty good, because 94, I think I was up in the Tour and Players Championship at Kingston Heath, and I was that nervous, and the crowds were huge again, and I was in the final group, and it took me 15 holes to realise that people. So I was playing awful up until then, and I finished about 13th or 14th. I realised that people weren't coming out to see whether this Kiwi could play and whether he was going to shank a few and that, whatever. People were just coming out to watch golf, and I sort of was able to get my nerves back together. And again, I final 3 holes managed to par him out and shoot my 77 or whatever it was. But I learned a lot from there, and it was just nice to have another opportunity a few years later and to actually get over your nerves, have your few little cues that you can do, and just put together a decent round that looked okay. Yes, it was a bit scrappy. Could be better, could be worse, but I managed to finish it off. So I was wrapped. I was wrapped with third.
So you return home. You return back home to the spiritual home in New Zealand golf, Paraparaumu Beach, where obviously we've been having a number of New Zealand Opens during that period. You're obviously buoyed by your success at Royal Melbourne, finishing top 3. You come out in the first round and you shoot 65, and you take the tournament, well under control. Talk us through '96. Obviously, that's a special part of our club's history, and it's etched obviously in your history as well.
Yeah, I mean, people often ask me what's your greatest event, or what do you think's your best? And in all honesty, if I go through it all, probably the New Zealand Open is it. Back then, I probably didn't realise how great it was to win your National Open. I think coming off a bit of a success from the week before, I just rolled into it. Okay, I won it. But I think as time has gone on and get to the end of it, I really am proud to have won the New Zealand Open, and especially at Paraparaumu, which I love. So, yeah, I come in. I'd stayed with the same people, Paul and Maureen DiBernardo. They lived.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
they were on about the 11th hole, I think, or something. Well, a streak back, but around there somewhere. So, coming back to familiar surroundings, feeling good about it, and I think I was paired with Michael Campbell, the first round, and we teed off 10, and I've gone first 3-4 holes. I've holed a few putts, and I'm probably 2 under early. So I've got it rolling again. So I've just carried on the form, which I think is really important. Didn't seem to struggle. And he says to me, I see how you won, how you did well last week. And I'm going, well, yeah, that's how anyone does any good in golf. You putt good. I mean, you can't make birdies without holding putts. And just carried on, finished that round off 65, and now you've got all sorts of thoughts going through your head, and I think I'm a sort of a. If someone asks me if a glass is half full or half empty, I'm going to say it's half empty. But then I will say in the next sentence that I'm going to try and have fun trying to fill that glass up. So I tend to look at what's the worst that's going to happen, and then let's try and fill it up. I mean, let's start a low base point and go from there. And that's sort of the way I've approached a lot of things. So got a few things going through your head. Second round, you just keep on rolling. To me, I always find in a tournament, the third round is really quite important. Get through the third round. If I get myself into position, I'm now feeling a lot more comfortable. So for me, the third round is the one where I really want to do well, or just keep myself there, because I know I can play coming in the final round. And the par 3, about 14, is it?
Yeah, 14th hole,
14
yeah.
or 15?
Goes down to the skull.
I thought the wind was into me a little bit. I think, or maybe the wind was behind me. Anyway, I hit this club, and I've hit it OB. I've gone right over the flag, over the green, into the hedge, out of bounds. So I thought, oh, great. Come back there, peg it up again, hit it to about 10 feet, hold the putt. So I make 4 and get away with it. And that was sort of the stuff I sort of did in that third round, I probably shot only 1 under or something, but it was
yeah, you actually shot 1 over. You shot 72, so yeah.
Yeah, 1 over. Well, there you go. So, but that sort of kept me in it because I was up the top. So I think Peter Lonard was up there, maybe Paul Gow. Yeah, so I'm there I'm only 2 behind going into the final round, but it was just stuff that I did there, which I think was quite amazing, and just kept myself in it. And then final round, by this stage, I've pretty got a few cues that I go through and stuff like that. So I've got myself fairly under control, but I start number 1. I think I par 1, scrappy par 2. Maybe I'm bogeyed, I'm not sure. But anyway, I wasn't happy. I'm starting to talk to myself a little bit and give myself a few uppercuts and just not right. My wife turns to me and says, that attitude is never going to get anything done. Either snap out of it or I'm going. And I probably sulked for a minute and then slowly got back into it. And I still remember the 8th hole, the par 4, dogleg right, fairly innocuous looking hole. I think we were playing a little bit into the breeze. And I played it poorly all week. I've maybe bogeyed it once and scrambled a couple of pars. And the night before, I'm thinking, if anything, I'm going to play that 8th hole well. I'm over it. And I get on the 8th, and I've hit this beautiful drive and then a really good iron shot into 10 feet, hold the putt. And I think from that point in the final round, I knew things were pretty much under control. I just wanted to play that 8th hole well, and I played it beyond my expectations. And I thought, I've got things under control here. I asked on the 10th hole, I said to Kerry, I said, how am I going? Don't tell me how I'm going, but just, am I going okay? She goes, yeah, you're going okay. Carry on. I birdie 16, and then I didn't look at any leaderboards. Didn't ask any more questions until I got that tee shot on 18 out of the way. All I wanted to do was hit the fairway on 18, and then if I was 1 behind or 1 ahead, I'd play accordingly as to what I'd do. But that's what I was worried about. So I'm aiming up, and I'm left rough, just a yard inside the fairway, or just right on that. I knew I'd probably end up in the rough unless I pushed it slightly. I hit exactly where I wanted to hit it. It was just a yard, 2 yards off the fairway, or 3 yards, can't remember. And then that's when I asked, I said, how am I going? She says, you got a 4-shot lead. And I'm going, okay, that's pretty cool. So now I'm sort of got to calm myself down. And the crowds are huge. Not many, hadn't been New Zealand winner for a number of years. And I held it. And then
Grant Waite would have been. Yeah, Grant Waite in 92 would have been the last. Yeah, so 4 years, yeah.
Yeah, 4 years. And then the crowds were huge. And I hit my next shot down there, hit the wedge onto the green, or a little half wedge, something like that. And almost lost it there, walking through the crowds. It still sends shivers down my spine. Not quite tears, but that was really, really big.